Hello and welcome back to Mixing Mondays. I'm Glenn Kessler here at the Compass Atelier just outside of Washington, D.C. And wanted to wish you a happy Martin Luther King Day today, and hopefully you've got a little time on your hands now or on later viewing to go over a color that I know many of my students and many professional artists have difficulty taming: phthalo green, or more properly, phthalocyanine green. We will be working on taming this monster using some of the concepts from the Painter's Compass color wheel today. We'll wait for a few more minutes to let everyone join us in. I know we had a lot of people who had RSVP'd that they were interested in joining us. That just makes me very happy to hear. Just started these at the beginning of January. We had one bonus one the week of Christmas just to test all the materials out and see how things would go. And so far the response has been excellent, with more and more people joining each day. I hope these Mixing Mondays, very short videos, will be of value to you as you try to navigate color in your own artwork. We've got a number of teachers who I know are tuning in. This is a great resource to use in your classrooms. It makes color theory and color mixing just so much easier to teach when everyone is on the same wavelength. That's a pun, color pun. But when we are all speaking the same color language, someone's teal might be another one's aqua, someone's burgundy might be another maroon. And it's important to have a universal language for color. So we want to make sure that that we're all, speaking the same language so that we can be more effective and more efficient with our discussions and also with our ability to mix. So let me just say hello to a few folks who have joined us. I'm seeing some wonderful comments already. Hi, Carol. Great to have you with us. And hi, John. Oh, your favorite, phthalo. Wonderful. Yes. And we might do phthalo blue another day. We're going to do phthalo green today. Thank you, Malathi, for joining us. And Ellen, good to see you on there. Marilyn, Sarah Niles, Regina, wonderful. Annette, good to see so many familiar faces. And I'm seeing the little pictures there and so many wonderful names. Paula Zeller, great painter. And Shanali. Valerie, great to see you. And Jacob, yes, who I just saw this morning, who picked up his color wheels. So he's ready to play along at home. Yes, hopefully you got the home game. And Barbara, Nan, Lisa. Oh my goodness, so many people. This is wonderful. And so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Let me refresh from the top for those who have just joined in. My name is Glenn Kessler. I am the founder and director of the Compass Atelier. I'm here today at the Compass Atelier, just north of Washington, D.C., specifically in Rockville, Maryland. We are an art school that teaches everything from beginning painting classes to a 3-year comprehensive art program called the Master Artist Program. You can learn more on thecompassatelier.com, ATELIER. We are going to today be investigating the Painter's Compass color wheel, a color wheel of my own invention. We've had great success using this wheel in my classes for the last number of years, and we've sold over 1,000 of these. They're out in the community. Plaza Artist Materials, our local arts store, they carry it. And I'm hoping this will be the year to really get the word out about how great this color wheel is, how great the color theory is that you can learn out of, and get this into really every emerging artist's hands. It should be. It just makes things so easy. Today, our very special day. Thanks for joining us on Martin Luther King Day. So hopefully a lot of you guys are thinking and kind of musing on Dr. King's life and what that means. And we're going to focus on learning something here today as well. We're going to focus on color mixing with one color in particular in mind. It's a devil. It's something that we have. If you've been using this color for a while, you know how challenging it can be. Phthalo green, phthalocyanine green. So why don't we go ahead and I'm going to turn the camera around and we're going to get started working with this guy. All right, turn you down to my color mixing station here. And here's the guy, phthalo green. All right. phthalocyanine green, copper, chlorinated copper, phthalocyanine, pigment green number 7. So that at least guarantees us that we know what we're working with. I always work with Gamblin products. I'm a Gamblin dedicated workshop instructor, and love supporting their great products. So we're going to start with our phthalo green. We're going to mix a little bit of white into it so that we can see it a little more clearly, and then we're going to get right on to trying to figure out how to make this color a little easier to work with in our lives. As you'll see, when it comes out in its pure state, phthalo green is pretty dark. So we're going to mix in some of that white to it so we can really see what we're working with. You can identify it immediately by its artificial kind of blue-green quality. Nice rich color, an elegant color, no doubt. But for many who want to use this as their green on their palette, it doesn't match a lot of what we see in nature. This is a tough color to find out in nature. It's actually a little more intense even than AstroTurf. So, but if you're working on grass or leaves, this can be a tough color to work with. Forget about using it in a face, skin or something like that. Well, I'm going to try to change that today. As we look at the painter's compass color wheel, we identify where phthalo green lives on the wheel. And it's over here at absolute maximum saturation between green and blue-green. That's this one, phthalo green. Remember, phthalo has that silent PH at the beginning. So I'll abbreviate it to PG. And we've got phthalo blue over here. We'll do another video on that another day. But what you notice is that it's at that maximum saturation. It's not a true green. We see how blue it is. It's not all the way to being a blue-green in its hue. So that's where we want to put it right there at its hue between blue and blue-green. Maximum saturation, we can tell that right away, even with the white mixed into it. It's still very intense. But most of the green things out in nature are not going to live up in this super high saturation range. Most grasses and trees and such like that might live more in this range of a kind of a medium saturation green to yellow green, or even down in this lower saturation in the subdued or subtle range. Again, you can think about hue, saturation. We've got intense, medium, subdued, and then neutral in the center. And as we know, our hues around the wheel. So this is more where we're going to want to find all of our natural colors. Well, how do we get phthalo green down there? We have a number of options of ways that we can do it. The answer is really on the other side of the color wheel. By mixing any two colors together, you create a string between this color that you start with and the color that you're aiming for. So if we're aiming up towards, that's not a straight line, but if we're aiming up for cadmium orange, it'll track through yellow green. It'll drop the saturation from intense down into medium, and that's an effective way to do it. Another more obvious color to mix in to phthalo green is going to be cadmium red, nice spectrum red, and this is cadmium red medium, or if it doesn't have the word medium, it'll simply default to being medium. We have another option with alizarin crimson up here, and we could probably even make a case for using some quinacridone magenta mixed into that phthalo green. That is going to cause it to push more into the blue side of the spectrum, but maybe you've got some ivy or something like that. Maybe it's a nice clean blue light day, and you're going to get some of those adjustments. So again, what we're looking for is to kind of turn phthalo green through mixing some of these complementary colors into a lower saturation and more proper hue. So let's see what happens when we actually put that into practice, and let's see if it bears fruit based on what we're seeing here. So I'll start with some cadmium orange. My tubes are well loved here. And I always buy the 150 milliliter tubes if I can, if they're available. I know I'm going to use it at some point. So when we mix in the phthalo green into the cadmium orange, what we see is that it yellows it and greens it. All right, so we've shifted the hue. You notice we've shifted the hue. It's no longer got that blue quality to it. We've shifted it more to the yellow side. And we've also lowered the saturation. Really, anytime you mix one color into another, you are almost always going to be lowering the saturation. And this is no exception. So we've kind of pushed it over to, I'd say we are about here in the green, yellow, green midsection right there. And so that's, I think, a pretty good illustration of what we're going after. But let me go ahead and add just a little bit more orange and see if we can push it even more to the yellow side of the spectrum. This is kind of a fascinating idea to think that you can mix secondary colors, that being orange, yellow, and I'm sorry, orange, green, and purple, that you can mix secondary colors to give the illusion of primary colors. And, you know, that orange is having a tough time fighting through what we call the tinting strength of phthalo green. Tinting strength is a measure of how powerful a pigment is. And, you know, not all pigments have the same tinting strength. The phthalos happen to have a very high tinting strength. Cadmiums tend to have a medium tinting strength. I find the cadmium lemon or cadmium yellow has a very low tinting strength. In fact, your earth colors have a low tinting strength. So not all pigments are created equal in that respect. But what we can see is that we're clearly shifting it from the blue through a green into the yellow side. And eventually we'd pop out there. I'll just do a little more for you guys. So this is a very satisfying experience. I'll just let the green that's on the knife here, you know, really kind of mix in. That's such a powerful pigment. That, by the way, is something else that scares people about phthalo green, is that it's so powerful. It's so strong as a pigment that, you know, you feel like it's just going to overwhelm. Well, just know that. You don't have to be scared of it. Just know that it's strong. Like, you know, normal black pepper versus cayenne pepper or something like that. You know, use a little bit less if it's a little bit hotter. Use a little bit more if it's a bit weaker. So I think that's great. Now we're definitely into that yellow-green kind of hue. That looks wonderful. Into that yellow-green hue. Let me see if I can kind of clean that off a little bit. And so we're clearly into yellow-green now. We're no longer in the green spectrum over here. That orange has done the trick and pushed it far enough. Very cool. If you're just joining us, feel free to make comments in the chat below. I'm happy to answer any questions you guys might have. Also, if you wouldn't mind sharing with your network, there should be a little share button down there. If you think this might be something that someone would be interested in, you can also tag them by name. It's a way to get one individual person. But if you want to share with a larger group, you know, with your whole network, then go ahead and hit that share button. And we'd love to have more people in here asking great questions. I'm not seeing any new questions, so I will continue on. All right, our next color that I'd like to mix with is cadmium red medium, and this is true cadmium red medium. There is cadmium red medium hue, which if you ever see the word hue on a tube, there's actually none of the named pigment inside of that tube. So you'll notice this is cadmium red medium, no word hue. And if we turn it over and look at the ingredient list, it actually says, yes, we have cadmium pigment red 108, and that is cadmium red, pigment red 108. And the cadmium orange that we had, that we just used, cadmium orange, pigment orange number 20. So always check your ingredient list if you're not sure, you know, make sure you know what you're cooking with here. Must be hungry. I got a lot of food metaphors here. All right, let's mix the phthalo green into the cadmium red. And again, if we're anticipating what should happen, it should lower the saturation really quickly. And this is going to push it ever so slightly to the blue side. You'll notice we're starting here at the line between green and blue-green. And by adding the cadmium red, we're certainly lowering the saturation, but we're also changing the hue. You notice it's shifting more around the blue side of the spectrum. So that should happen when we mix it in here. Let's test it and see. That is a lovely gray. My goodness, that is a beautiful gray. I'm going to throw a little bit more of the phthalo green into there. You notice that cadmium red is actually pretty durable. It's pretty strong tinting strength. It can hold up to even the bully phthalo green. Now that might be getting a little dark for us. I'm going to add just a tiny bit of white if you can't see, but that has done exactly what we expected it to do. It grayed, it lowered its saturation, and it blued up just a little bit more. So again, I'll add just a touch of white to help you see that a little more clearly, and this should be a really gorgeous gray-green, gray-blue-green. Ah, it's magnificent. I hope you love color as much as I love color. Probably not. I love color a lot. But look at that. It's a beautiful color right there. Hi, Matt Baker. And let's see, Nan has a question. So if you wanted to reduce the saturation of the mixture of the phthalo green, cadmium orange, would you move across the wheel to add purple or red purple? And that is exactly what you would do. If we find ourselves here and we want to, let me point, if we find ourselves here, which is I think where that last color is, and we want to actually move even lower in the saturation, all we would do is look through the wheel to find out what was in that direction. So you've got the quinacridone. Sorry, it's hard to draw when the camera's right in my face. You've got that. You've got dioxazine purple over there. So you've got a lot of options as well for how you can lower that saturation. And yeah, if your color wheel starts to get a little, if your painter's compass color wheel starts to get encumbered with a lot of lines, we're using a wet erase marker. This is definitely an item you would want to purchase with your color wheel. We sell them on the website. Just go to thepainterscompass.com. But you can remove it just by taking a little bit of water on a paper towel. And again, it's a wet erase marker, so once it has set, you can't erase it. That keeps you from knocking off your marks while you're working on it. When you know you want to make changes, then go ahead and use that wet paper towel. You can pull it off. Now, if you've done it right, how we set it up, and there's a video on painterscompass.com about how you do that, then you'll have put your pigment names on the actual laminated color wheel inside of the bag so you don't accidentally wipe off where all your pigments are. So now we're ready for our next color. So yeah, again, what Nan has asked, a wonderful question, is if we mix these two colors together and we arrive here and we want to lower the saturation, surely we can mix in another color. Let's try that quinacridone and see if that in fact lowers the saturation. I'll do it right up here. Clean off my knife. I've got some quinacridone right here. And we'll just mix. I'll just start with a little bit so you can see it. And look at that. Graze it up. Beautiful. It goes through a brown stage. Let me move that off a little bit. It goes through a brown stage, and then it would even pass through a really gray stage on its way all the way up to actually becoming a purple. Yeah, we're shifting. So we're shifting just a little orange, which means, in fact, that this color was further over than I thought it was, and that is great. Yeah, in fact, on second glance, this is the color that we started with over here. Not there. It's more in that yellow, actually maybe there. And when we mix the quinacridone with it, now you see we push over into a low saturation orange, which is exactly what's happening right there. There's always a reason, right? That's the thing that the wheel gives you, is an understanding of why that might be happening. You know, I'm going to add a little more white to there. White actually would be nice to pull it back into the center, as well as the titanium white does exist on the wheel. It's right there. So this should do a great job for kind of quieting that down, graying that up a little bit. Good. And we could even add some blue in there if we wanted to. I'm not going to throw the whole kitchen sink at this one, but you can see how beautiful and gray these colors are getting. To have started from phthalo green and to have arrived at a color like this is pretty magical. I'll just throw a tiny bit of phthalo back in there. don't have my blue handy, but the phthalo green has enough blue in it that should retard the effects of all that red orange that's in there. And there we go. That's a magnificent gray. So I think we're pretty well in the center of the wheel at this point, having tracked all the way from phthalo green through cadmium orange's mixture, and then a little bit of a turn into quinacridone magenta, and then finally that white. So across to here, up to here, and just a little over to the white. Bang, right in the middle. Awesome. We can navigate our path to these colors. It's a pretty shocking thing, and I hope it's coming as a revelation to you guys. It's not anything, beyond you. It really isn't. I've got people who have never painted and never drawn before, and they'll pick up the color wheel, and with a little bit of instruction, we've got some great videos that you can watch and kind of learn how all that goes. You can make some great painting. But it really is about color control and mastery. This last one I'll just use is alizarin permanent. I go back and forth on alizarin crimson versus alizarin permanent. I like them both. The alizarin permanent's a little stiff sometimes. I don't terribly mind that, but it does require the addition of some medium usually, or at least at a minimum solvent to mix with it. But it's a really beautiful and rich alternative to alizarin crimson, which has been shown to be long-term fugitive. I mean, hundreds of years fugitive. So most of us don't really need to worry about that. But if it's a concern for you, do think about it. So that's the addition of the alizarin now into the mixture of into the phthalo green. And again, what we can expect is that we're going to draw that on there, is that we're going to shift from the phthalo green over into that blue spectrum, that blue-purple spectrum, and that is, in fact, where we are here. Let me add a little white so you can see how blue that color went. Phenomenal, right? That's a really magnificent and beautiful color. Hope that's not too low for you guys, but let me focus on that. A nice blue. That's the addition of alizarin crimson into the phthalo green. What we're illustrating here, obviously, is that the color wheel is a map and allows you to navigate your way through what you're trying to mix to, knowing that phthalo green starts at a high saturation and that many of the colors in nature might exist in a medium to low saturation. All we need to do is think about how are we going to get this starting point into this range. And I think you can see now that cadmium red, cadmium orange, and phthalo green are going to give you quite a bit of a range in there. You might even need some cadmium yellow to fill out that little section right there, which would allow you to mix that wedge. So anything inside of this triangle can be mixed from cadmium orange, cadmium yellow, and phthalo green. Any color that's in here can be mixed from these colors. And cadmium red, cadmium orange, and phthalo green, anything in this pie piece over here can be mixed. So again, all of those greens, those natural greens that you might see out in the landscape can be mixed with phthalo green, cadmium orange, and then either yellow or red. That's going to be our formula, and that's what we've got some beautiful examples of here. I hope this helps, guys. Let me switch back around for you. Let me tip it back up, flip back around, and answer any questions if there are any. But, that's our way to defang phthalo green. It's our way to take a color that I really do think is of great value. Starting at that high saturation, being able to quiet it down is much better than starting with a low saturation green, a sap green, or a terra verte. Sap green is not really an actual pigment. Sap green is mixed of 2, 3, sometimes more pigments in the tube. Terra Vert. If you do get legitimate actual Terra Vert instead of a mixed color, that's going to be a very, very low saturation green. So you have limits on what you can do. You can't go higher saturation when you start with a lower saturation green, but you can always start from a higher saturation green like Phthalo and lower it by mixing in some of our complements. Again, I hope this works well for you guys. And as always, I appreciate you joining us here on Mixing Mondays. Go to the painterscompass.com, learn more about this amazing wheel. Pick one up if you haven't picked one up already. They're at Plaza Artist Materials. I think they're actually currently out. If you're listening to this today on Martin Luther King, they're currently out, but give them another week and they'll have some more back in there. Otherwise, you can order them directly off the website. We can ship them to you, or you can pick them up here at the atelier. Hope you enjoy this. Happy painting. Take care, and I'll see you next week with another Mixing Monday. And feel free to write in the comments what you'd be interested in seeing me mix next Monday. Can't do them all, but would love to hear from you guys what you're looking forward to. Take care.